Are you tired of going to the same old places in your RV? Is it getting a little bit too monotonous? Well, in this episode, we've got all kinds of adventures for you to consider if your RV life is getting a little bit stale. This is RV Miles. Chances are you've seen them on the road. That's because Blue Ox designs and manufactures the best towing products in the industry. Just look around. You'll find them on highways, in campgrounds, and anywhere you find people traveling in the great outdoors. From award-winning tow bars and base plates to a full line of weight-distributing hitches, adjustable ball mounts, and now they have fifth wheel hitches too. With Blue Ox, towing doesn't have to be a drag. Visit blueox.com for more information. Harvest Host is a membership that allows RVers to take a rest from the road and enjoy unlimited overnight stays at over 5,100 unique locations in North America, like breweries, farms, attractions, wineries, and much more. Easily plan and book your next RV trip and enjoy over $1,500 in exclusive member benefits by joining Harvest Host. Get 15% off your first year of membership with the code MILES. That's MILES. Go to harvesthost.com to become a Harvest Host member today. Welcome to episode 349 of RV Miles. I'm Jason.
And I'm Abby. And we are two RVers along with our three boys, Jack, Ethan, and Henry. We've been crisscrossing North America on one epic road trip since 2016. Here at RV Miles, we talk all things RV and outdoors, from industry news to travel destinations, why you might be in a rut RVing, and so much more.
We are so happy to be back in the studio, back home. We've spent a long time in Florida and in the Caribbean and had a blast. First going to the Florida RV Super Show and debuting the new RV, the 37 RV Miles by Sabre. And then on our Disney cruise, it's been a heck of a lot of fun. And now we are back home after the long journey back home. We had to fly to Kansas City with an extra suitcase.
Yeah, we did have to buy an extra suitcase while we were on vacation.
And then pick up the kids and then drive this 6-hour drive back here.
Yes. And I was so in Florida Caribbean weather that when we drove back from Kansas City, I left my winter coat at my parents' house because I was like, who needs a winter coat?
It was a fairly nice day that we drove back through Missouri and Iowa. And I wasn't wearing a coat either. And I think we just didn't realize that you hung your coat up, your nice big winter coat that you just bought.
Bought back in November. So my parents are lovingly shipping that back to me because it is still winter. It's the Midwest. It's, February. We're about to get fake spring, which we all get, just like we get fake fall. We're about to get fake spring.
I think we have fake spring right now. I think we're in a little bit of that right now.
Maybe a little bit.
Today's a little chilly, but the last few days have been kind of warmer.
But I think any of you who deal with winter weather, fake spring is coming and we're all going to get really excited and we're going to go outside wearing our Crocs and our flip-flops and our shorts. And then we're going to wake up the next day and it's going to be snowing and negative temperatures. Who doesn't have winter right now? It snowed in literally New Orleans.
We were on the cruise and we hear some other folks talking. They're from Louisiana and they're telling some other people on the elevator that they just heard back home they got 12 inches of snow in Louisiana. And they're like, I don't even know if anybody knows where to buy a snow shovel.
Nowhere is safe anymore.
So I'm sure a lot of you had a lot of fun with that. We were on the beaches of the Virgin Islands. So
let's not rub it in anymore. I miss it, but I'm also really glad to be home, really glad to be back in the office. And because a lot of that means that we're gearing up for our spring trip that is going to be coming up soon with the 37 RV Miles. Our family is moving into a bigger home here very soon, which is much needed. We have two kids that just cannot share a room anymore. That is fine. I remember when that happened in my own house when I was a kid and we had to figure out how to turn, I think we ended up turning a craft room or something into a bedroom for one of my brothers because my parents just couldn't take it anymore. So I get it. I'm glad that we can do that. But there's a lot happening here around RV Miles in the next 8 weeks.
Such a wonderful time showing off the Sabre 37 RV Miles. Ours is done. So the one at Florida was a prototype. Our unit is done. We don't pick it up for a couple more weeks, but we had such a great time in Florida showing it off and seeing so many of you, so many mile marker members, and just the response from the community has been fantastic. And we so appreciate all of your support and coming by and chatting with us. We just had the greatest time.
Yeah. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out, we do have a full tour walkthrough up on the RV Miles YouTube channel, not the podcast YouTube channel. Just a reminder, we have two separate YouTube channels. We have the RV Miles podcast, which is where you can watch all the video versions of this show. Then we have the RV Miles YouTube channel, which is where you can find Jason's news videos. You can find a full walking tour. What are you looking at?
There's the mailman.
Jason, you gave me the weirdest look.
Well, there was a person behind us just standing in the window, and it looks like it's a mailman that couldn't get in the door of the building, even though they've got a key. Also, there's a Coca-Cola on the camera too. So I'll just gonna have a sip of this.
We may or may not have gone to Arthur's Deli before we recorded today and got some lunch. So just a reminder, if you want to kind of catch all the content we have and you've been wondering where it all is, it's on two separate YouTube channels. Jason on the news video does have a full roundup of the RV Super Show from the couple of days that we were there. But we're going to talk about our own impressions of the show, maybe some of our own, I don't know if it'll be spicier opinions, but we're going to talk about our time at the Super Show. But we're going to do that over on the Detour podcast. And that is a podcast we do for our mile marker community. It's the show after the show.
So yeah, if you want to hear more about that, consider becoming a mile marker member. It's $7 a month, $70 a year, and more information in the link in the description for this episode. But today we're going to talk about some interesting adventure ideas for RVers as Abby fixes my shirt.
Yeah, wow. You can tell we haven't been in the studio for a while. We're doing a whole bunch of extra in this video while it's happening.
There's a lot of people out there that we've talked to that sort of do the same thing all the time. And sometimes it gets a little stale and old. We've been there too. So we decided we'd come up with a list of sort of different ideas for things to consider if your RV life is getting stale. So we're going to get to that in a minute. But first, we have a question from a listener that we found interesting, because this is something that kind of feeds into this, because some people are those people that are just, we go to the RV park, we have our full hookups, and that's what we do, and that's what we know how to do. And we don't really know how to get out of that bubble. And this is sort of the first step to getting out of that bubble for a lot of people. The question was, I've been listening to your podcast and I'm curious how you manage when you're boondocking or have longer stays at county or state parks that may have electric, but not water or sewer. Do you not just use the toilet and sinks in your RV, or do you have one of those wagon things where you can unload tanks and bring them to the dump site? So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a combination of that. We have in the past had a portable waste tank,
a honey wagon,
whatever you want to call it, Blue Boy, honey wagon, all the different
other
things.
Thing, wagon.
We had the Camco Rhino tank, which we had a love-hate relationship with.
Yes.
We've had a couple of them leak on us.
Both of them. We've only owned two.
Yeah.
And both
we've owned three. And
we
all
had
three have leaked.
Yes.
Yeah.
I meant two different sizes. I'm sorry. Yeah. We've owned two of the same type of the larger one. And then
it's not the type of thing that you want to leak.
No,
right?
No. So we used to have those, and we decided that after, we were bit the second time with a leaky one, that we were kind of done with that. And so we really, when we are on just electric hookups, or even when we're on partial being like electric and water, we really just manage the tanks. And one of the ways we do that is by making sure that we kind of have a bit of a rule. Like, if you need to go to the bathroom, try to, during the day, go up to the bathhouse.
Right.
And use the bathroom.
It's not about not using those things. It's about using them less. So we try to choose, if we're going to be at a state park, for instance, for 2 weeks straight, we try to choose one that's got decent showers, or maybe the kids will shower at the bathhouse and we'll shower in the RV, or vice versa. Sometimes the kids will be the ones that shower in our rig.
Let's be honest. Who's showering in the rig and who's being sent up to the bathhouse? It's mom and dad up at the bathhouse.
But yeah, if it's daytime, go use the bathhouse to use the restroom. If it's night before bed in your pajamas, you're getting up in the middle of the night, you use the toilet. We just sort of manage it a little bit more. You can get one of the portable tanks. There are plenty of options out there, and we have used them effectively in the past. I would suggest if you do get one, don't get a really big one. It seems like a good idea to get a really big one. Those get incredibly heavy.
Make sure you turn the water off when you're soaping up. Only have the water on when you need to rinse. When you're doing dishes, we like to sometimes just set like a smaller tub in the sink, fill that up with soapy water, and then that is the water that we use to wash. Then we'll dump that out and put a little bit of fresh water in there. And then I'll just take like a cup or something and scoop the water and like pour it over the dishes I'm rinsing. There are a lot of different ways that people wash their dishes and manage their dishes. I will say, and we feel very strongly about this, and I recognize that not everyone agrees with us on this fact, but I feel very strongly about this. Please don't go dump your gray water outside in order to manage your tanks. Please just go ahead and put it down your tanks. I understand you're still using a small amount of water if you do some of the boondocking dishwashing methods. Please don't dump it outside. I know that someone will say, well, I've wiped all the food off of it. There's no food particles. There's still food in it, and it's still attracting animals. It's still pouring a large amount of water into one space on the land. It's changing the land itself. You never know if that's the home of something. Like, it's just really important to leave no trace as much as you can. And if you're making the choice to camp somewhere where you're only going to have electric or water or electric, you don't get to use the land to like keep you there longer. Like, you need to still take care of the land.
You can also do some things like, consider what you're eating in order to reduce the amount of dishes. So, you're having lunch, try not to have anything that you're cooking so you don't have pots and pans, and just do, things like a sandwich that you can just brush a plate clean. So things like that you can think about. People have all sorts of water management techniques. They reclaim the water that they use in their shower that's heating, as it's heating up, and then and put that in a pitcher and might use that to flush their toilet with. There are lots of different things. But remember, you can always hook up and then go up to the dump station and come back. So
absolutely,
it's not that. And there are people that just have to shower every day, but you can try to not be one of those people and shower less. You shower every other day. You can not wash your hair every day. You can wipe yourself down with a wash rag. There are lots of different things you can do.
People love those venture wipes.
Right.
We have a lot of past podcast episodes where we go into all of this in really great detail. So I will make sure that those end up in the show notes. And then also we do have a new trend now, and that is we are putting the show notes back up on rvmiles.com.
Yes.
So if you want to go over to rvmiles.com/349, you are going to get all of the links to everything that we talk about in this episode, and you'll be over at rvmiles.com, and you can bounce around and check out some of the new things we have going on over there.
More in a moment, but first, this episode is sponsored by the folks at RV Life. The RV lifestyle is about community, and the RV community is at the heart of RV Life. RV Life recently celebrated the 1 millionth trip planned with RV Life Trip Wizard, their excellent trip planning tool for RVers, featuring all the trusted reviews, pictures, and tips from their RV Life campground site. RV Life also features several blog sites and over 20 additional RVing forums to serve the RV community. All this experience and community feedback come together to help create a fantastic RV trip planner and mobile navigation tool called RV Life Pro. RV Life users have planned over 3 billion miles of travel using RV Life Pro and its included RV Safe mobile app. Take 25% off RV Life Pro at the link in the description for this episode. This episode is sponsored by our friends over at RVmattress.com by Brooklyn Bedding. If you want to get a new mattress for your RV, really consider it. Get a good night's sleep in your RV. It's why you bought an RV in the first place. RVmattress.com offers mattresses that are made in their factory in Arizona, shipped to you wherever you are. They're toxin-free, 120 night sleep trial. We have them in both of our RVs and in our home because they're a real mattress manufacturer. Brooklyn Bedding makes all kinds of mattresses, not just RV mattresses. They're real mattresses for your RV instead of an RV specific mattress, but you can get real mattresses in all the weird different sizes that RV manufacturers make those platforms for, the different thicknesses, the different widths, the different bunk sizes, all of it. And through us, you get 30% off. It's the best deal they offer. You go to rvmattress.com/RV miles and use the code RV miles at checkout, and you're going to get 30% off and get that mattress shipped to you wherever you are in the country, including a campground. And you just open it up and let it expand, and you're off to the races. rvmattress.com/RV miles with code RV miles at checkout for 30% off. All right, let's talk about your RV adventures and what you might do if you feel like they're getting stale, or you just don't know what to do. You don't know what options you have out there. We've got a whole list. We've got about 10 items here. Things to consider to sort of spice up your RV life a little bit, and not in that way.
Just leave the pineapples and flamingos at home. That's tip number one.
So we're going to start out by talking about an event that you might want to consider attending. And there are other options similar to this around the country as well. But one of the coolest things that you can do as an RVer, seriously, the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta.
There's a reason why this is so incredibly popular, and that people every year have multiple computers open. They wake up at the crack of dawn in order to prep for when the tickets go on sale for this in regards to RV camping, because there's nothing that will pull you into an experience more than camping on the Balloon Fiesta grounds and watching hot air balloons fly over your RV every morning for hours.
It's just a wee bit of danger that they might hit you.
You sit there and you think, is today the day? Is today the day when that guy lands his basket on my roof? It's thrilling. It's absolutely stunning. I mean, you get the most amazing pictures of your rig, first off, with like these balloons everywhere. But then there's just this general sense of excitement and enjoyment. And you're with these community of other RVers who are marveling at the sight just like you are. And it is really one of those like bucket list must do at least once RV experiences. And if you haven't done it and you want to do it this year, well, you already missed it. They've already sold out. Everything's already gone on sale. Can't do it. They go on sale in January.
You might be able to get on the waiting list and get in, but
you might be able to. But it's hard. It takes place in October. And like I said, you can start making reservations for camping at the fairgrounds, at the Fiesta in January. There are plenty of RV parks around as well that will offer camping during that time.
It's kind of a pain to get in, though.
It's more expensive. They will raise the prices during that time of year.
This is one of those events that is really, truly like made for RVers, and most of the people, there's a lot of people that go to this that live in the whole area, but it's so easy to do as an RVer because you just stay there and walk over. Because this happens in downtown Albuquerque, it is really hard to get into the festival, the Fiesta, as they call it, if you are not staying on site. So you could stay at a campground in the area, but it is a darn pain to drive in and park and do all that stuff. It is much better to stay on site if you can.
Yeah. And we've got past podcast episodes on our time at the Fiesta. We've been twice. We were there in 2021 and 2022. We had hoped to go this year, but
it's not going to work.
We were at the Super Show when tickets went on sale, and we were overwhelmed with just the work we were doing there. However, like I said earlier, I will link to those past podcast episodes so you can get more information, specifics about the whole event itself, and kind of decide if it's right for you. But it should be right for you because every RVer should do it at least once.
We've talked to some people about some of the other ballooning events around the country, and there are some other options that do have RV camping on site. You might want to look into some of those if Albuquerque in October is not going to work out for you. But this is really, it's the biggest ballooning event in the world.
It needs to work out for you at least once.
It's really, really cool.
So the next one we're kind of calling Plan a Discovery Trip. And that is a trip that maybe has a goal or a theme in mind. So for instance, let's say you want to drive a scenic route this season. You want to do all of Route 66 or the Great River Road, or maybe you want to go up the Pacific Coast Highway. And what you're going to do is within that, you're going to plan your stops that are based around that road, that route.
And surprises, like things that not necessarily stuff that you have all entirely planned out, but stuff that's going to hit you along the way.
Yeah. So you're making discoveries, not only along the route itself, but then as you're going, making the travel day, the destination, or the travel day, the journey, a little bit more of the focus than necessarily the destination.
It doesn't need to be as big as Route 66 or the Great River Road either. You could just do, well, we want to try to, visit the top 5 state parks in our state, or we just want to do this circle route around our state or our area. It can be something that's 2 weeks long. It doesn't need to be several months. You can figure out ways to make something smaller work.
For us, a discovery trip was Baja to Alaska in 2023, taking that 6 months and going all the way from the southern part of Baja up to Alaska. Now, that's quite an extreme discovery trip, right? Jason mentioned state parks. I had put in here that you could make it a goal to visit all the state parks in your state over the course of a whole season and include the shoulder season times. Find out when your state parks open up and when they close for the year and kind of build your trips around that. A lot of people do ballparks. That's a huge one for RVers, traveling around and trying to go to as many baseball parks as they can in the country. Some people will do major league. They'll do some of the minor league parks. We have a great minor league park here in the Quad Cities. Other ones can be music festivals. Mm-hmm. People love using their RV to go to music festivals. You could have a whole season around trying to catch music festivals around your part of the country, or take a nice longer one to a big one that you've been wanting to go to.
A lot of people don't realize that there are music festivals all over the country that are places where you can camp, and you can camp on site and walk over to the concerts. I also want to say too, I'm not a big fan of the list. Like, I want to check everything out, like all 50 states. And that's some people. Now you have that goal and that's great for you. But for me, I think I would rather say to myself, instead of I'm going to visit all the national parks in Utah, I'm going to make this trip just about visiting national park sites in Utah. That doesn't mean I'm hitting every single one that exists in Utah, but that's just the focus area of it. And that way you don't feel like you have to complete something if you don't want to check everything off of a list, and you just have some fun making that, again, the focus.
Yeah, use this as like a jumping off place to kind of put it in language that works for you. Of course, national parks are huge for people in their RV life. And there are some people who really want to get that big capital N, capital P, and they want to get to all of them. Or maybe, break it down and be like, I want to visit national monuments, or I want to see all of the national park sites within a, 3-state radius of where I live or something. Make it whatever you do. You need to make it realistic. You need to make it something you're interested in. And you have to be okay if it's not fully completed. Like, I keep saying I would really love for Ethan and I to visit every football stadium in the country. Now, I'm pretty sure that's probably not super realistic, like that we're going to hit every single one.
But you can hit some.
But we can hit some. And we can try, even when we're out on the road, to do that. I think that the whole point of planning a discovery trip is that it should be a discovery. It really should be trying to do something you don't normally do. Make it a foodie trip. Do you love food? Like, make it a point that when you go into a new place, you eat local. We're only going to eat local on this trip. Or we want to try all the, we want to check out we're going to Colorado, so we're going to eat a lot. We're going to drink a lot of beer.
We're going to go to Kentucky and do bourbons.
Right. We're going to go on the bourbon trail, things like that, but just make it a discovery for you. And I think that can kind of, enhance this RV season a little bit. So the next one is really simple. And Jason and I went back and forth on even having this on here. But I do think that in some respects, this can be a little intimidating for people who are really a private RV resort campers. And if you are feeling stuck in a rut, I think one of the best ways to get out of it is to go and stay in a national park campground. Now, that is going to coincide with what we just talked about from the question earlier. You're mostly only going to have electric and water.
If that at all.
If that at all. And so what you get when you step out of that comfort zone, if you're someone who really only camps with full hookups, what you're going to get is to be inside of a national park, to stay inside of a national park is so immersive and so incredible. I reference back to the Watchmen at Zion time and time and time and time again, because it is such an incredible campground and experience to be right there in what feels like the hub of the park, the action of the park. I mean, when I think about when we were up at Denali, and the experiences we had inside those parks, incredible. If you're nervous about staying in a national park, I'm not, I'm over 30 feet, or I don't know what the length buzzword is this year for how big you have to be in order to not be in a park. I don't pay attention to that noise. But if you're hearing like, you can't do it voices, I'm telling you, you can. Trust us, and you will be better for it.
You all know we had intended to build an RV that was like 36 to 38 feet. Not quite 30, but the 36 to
that was the
foot
dream.
range or so. We ended up with 43 feet. When we booked our reservations for this spring, we hadn't completed the design for this unit. We were still back and forth on very many different options, and we were still thinking that we would be like 38 feet or less. But we are staying, I just went and double checked all our reservations is what I'm getting into to make sure that we could fit. So we're staying outside of Grand Teton National Park. We're staying in 2 different campgrounds in Yellowstone National Park. And we're going to fit with our 43-foot fifth wheel. All of our reservations are just fine. We've got some state park options along the way as well. Of course, being in a bigger RV does limit you a little bit more. But there are options. Don't think just because you're huge that you can't fit into some parks.
And guess what? Some of those parks we won't have hookups.
That's true.
So we will be dry camping.
We're going to do some boondocking as well, which this leads into the next one. So the next one is a little bit about dichotomy, right? If you are somebody who is only a boondocker type person, you hate paying for campgrounds, you never want to stay in them, you just want to be out on the land somewhere, that's fine. But if you're getting a little bored with that, you might want to try another option. Or if you're somebody that only stays in the fancy RV resorts, you might want to try another option. So if you're a hardcore boondocker, maybe you want to try going to a fancy RV resort and splurging on yourself a little bit. So there's a misnomer out there that they're all like over $100 a night. They are expensive, and they have gotten more expensive, but there are some good options out there that actually aren't that expensive. So I think you look around and you might realize that if you normally like go to a campground for a night or two to empty your tanks and to do some laundry and stuff, and you usually, spend $30 a night on a cheap campground, maybe consider just for one weekend spending a little bit more money and splurging on something that's going to have hot tubs and pools and all the amenities so that you can relax a bit, and vice versa. If you're somebody that only does that sort of stuff, get out of your comfort zone and boondock away from it all, like really away from it all. We're not talking about staying in Walmart parking lot. We're not talking about just going to a campground that's no hookups, really getting out on some land and boondocking. You again can do it in a very big rig, but even if it's just for a night or two, every RV that is manufactured has the ability to be able to be out for a night or two, even if you don't use the electric at all and just pretend it's a tent.
Fancy tent camping. Yeah. We really do believe that everyone should try boondocking at least once. And if you come out of it and you don't like it, you don't like it. And that's totally fine. But it is, again, you have this vehicle that can do so many different types of camping. Don't limit yourself to just one experience. Go out and kind of try it all. And a note too about some of like the more expensive campgrounds out there. We're on mailing lists for a lot of campgrounds just to kind of keep an eye on what they're up to and what's going on in the industry.
Or let's be honest, we stayed at a campground once and we're on their mailing list.
Now we're on their mailing list.
We get a lot of emails.
We do, but I don't unsubscribe to them because it is very fascinating to keep up with, how they're communicating with the RVer. I am telling you, they all are sending out on the regular discounts, 25% off, 30% off, book this weekend, book now, book early. If you feel like there's a campground you're really, really interested in, but it just feels like I cannot bring myself to pay that much, just get on their mailing list. And I'm telling you, they're probably going to send out, and especially if you've got some flexibility, they're going to send out an email with a discount, and that, you want to snag that. And that's when you want to go and take advantage of that.
Yeah, especially if you have kids, like go do the water slides and all this stuff.
Do it. I mean, we're having this hangout in Utah that we're hosting at the 1st of May. And this campground that we're staying at, I'm very excited for it, Rome Echo Island, because it's got so much for the kids to do. And it's really important, again, that you take kids into consideration when you're planning these trips. Like, also, give them some fun stuff.
The wild thing to me too is like, not that this is a good comparison, but Rome Echo Island, their prices are better than some of these Loves hookup sites, these overnight Loves hookup sites that are out there now that are $70 a night.
What is going on, Loves? I mean, our group is getting, I think, a rate of about $85 a night. It's, that's a discount there. But they have a giant rope course that goes over a section of the campground for the kids. They have pools and hot tubs and amenities and a guest house. Loves literally has a truck stop. Now it's that convenient. Said, we did stay at one that had, it was fine.
Like, it's just
laundry. It did have a fire pit where we were at, a little picnic table. It had some covered spaces. It did have space for dogs.
Yeah. It's just trying to be something it shouldn't be trying to be.
Yeah, it's not $70 a night though. Yeah. Anyway, that's a conversation for a different day. The next one on the list to keep spicing up RV life if you're in a bit of a rut.
This one's a type of boondocking.
Usually, and this is beach camping. Mm-hmm. Everyone should camp on the beach at least once.
Maybe it's a campground that is right on the beach, so they actually have campsites. But we have on numerous occasions driven our RV onto a beach where other people do, and it's normal and it's very compact. There are places where people do it and they get stuck and they do it the wrong way. Mm-hmm. So you need to research what you're doing a little bit. But we have done this several times, and it has been some of the absolute best camping to be able to go out your door and be standing on the beach.
Ocean is right there.
Wildly great.
Or very close to your front door if you don't get far enough back from high tide, as some of us learned.
Mustang Island was a great place that we went on the Texas Gulf Coast near Corpus Christi. Yeah. And they have a campground where you can have electric hookups and walk to the beach, or you can stay on the beach itself for $10 a night.
Well, no, it was $10 a night
back then,
many years ago. And then prices, I'm sure, have changed.
And they have a really nice bathhouse, so you can clean all that sand and stuff off of you. And so if you're not comfortable, what worked really well in that situation for us is we went and stayed at the campground. And then we scoped out the beach and made sure we were comfortable with it before we did it. There were other big RVs out there. There were big fifth wheels. We were not in the fifth wheel then. We were in our travel trailer.
But our friends were.
Yeah, they were in a big old fifth wheel.
They were in a big old fifth wheel. Yeah. And they did it. And I think that was one of the reasons too, and this is going to be our next tip, which is to caravan with friends. I think that was one of the reasons why beach camping was so successful for us, was because we had another family with us. Like, you kind of had people to do this first time thing with you who were also doing it new for the first time. And, we kind of had like a little support unit built in there. And so I think, if you have never caravanned with other people before, maybe don't dive right into it and be like, we're spending the whole season together. Maybe just like spend a weekend together. See if you enjoy hanging out with one another.
You all know we've done a lot of this, mainly because the kids had other kids to hang out with, which was great. And, we, of course, are great friends as well. But what we learned doing this for over long periods of time with two different families is you don't all have to always do the same thing either.
No.
And I think
and you shouldn't.
It's like, that's like one of the things you learn in marriage. Like eventually it takes a long time to get there to realize, oh, we don't always have to do the same stuff together. And we'll probably be a little bit happier if we each spend a little bit of time doing some of the things we love instead of trying to assume that we all have to do the same things.
Someone said to me the other day, they were asking me about like, oh, should adults go on a Disney cruise or what? I've always been interested in that or whatever. And I had said, oh, it's amazing. And like, whatever. And I was like, yeah, you know, there's plenty of adults only stuff to do. And, you know, and I said something about like, even in your stateroom, if it's just the two of you, it's an adults only stateroom. And this person was like, well, it's just me. And then my response was like, oh my gosh, I would totally go on a cruise by myself.
Look, this cruise.
You should go. It's so much cheaper.
This cruise had very few kids on it.
It really didn't. But I was like, the thought of doing something like that, not because I don't love you or enjoy spending time with you, but I would totally go and do something solo. I would solo RV for a weekend. You know,
but you're going out with some friends for the summer. If you're going to do something big like that, well, you know, you're together at this point and you say, well, we're going to go this way and you're going to go that way, but we're going to meet back up here. And you can do stuff like that. You don't have to feel like, well, we're all going to the same restaurant every single night. We're going to cook breakfast together every single day.
Breakfast
don't do
is
that.
at 8 a.m. Be there.
But travel with friends or family because it can be a heck of a lot of fun.
And places like the Balloon Fiesta, a music festival, you know, things that have destinations, going skiing in Breckenridge. Like that's, you know, something when we go out on this trip in April, we're hoping to meet family there. And to Jason's point, we sent out like our entire itinerary to our family and friends. And we said, this is what we're doing. You are welcome at any time to meet us somewhere along the road. It doesn't have, we're not asking you to come the entire 7 weeks with us, but if you want to meet us in Breckenridge, if you want to meet us at Custer, come and do it.
We even put on the list, like these are ones that have cabins.
Yeah.
So these are places that will have lots of hotel options or airport nearby.
So this is basically our way of guilting all of our family watching this show or listening to this, which is very few because hardly any of them actually listen or watch this. But if you are, we have done all the work for you. You have no reason to not meet us, especially over a holiday weekend.
All right. The next one is similar to the Balloon Fiesta thing in a way. Because the Balloon Fiesta is kind of a rally, and actually,
or a lot of rallies go to the Balloon Fiesta.
Yeah, a lot of the individual groups of sites are held by rallies, but this one is attend a rally. And I will admit, when I first started RVing, I thought the idea of attending a rally where lots of RVers get together and meet up was very low on the list of things that I would ever want to do.
You really looked at it as like a form of torture.
Yes.
Like I'm going to have to go for an entire length of time and have long conversations with people that I don't know.
Before people knew who I was, right?
Or before your transformation since starting the YouTube channel and your ability to talk to people versus your ability to talk to people now. Yeah. You are a very different human.
Because people have something that they want to talk to me about usually.
Yeah, because now you have a
helps because I don't have to come up with conversation topics. Usually there's something that people want to tell me about, which is great.
I will talk about anything to ensure that there is not silence in the room. I will literally talk to you about like the shape of that box over there.
The nice thing about going to a rally is actually you don't have to talk to anybody. There are lots of options out there. There are big organizations. There's the Escapees organization. There's what used to be the FMCA, the FRVA, Family RV Association. So you can go to these big association type rallies and you don't even have to be members for some of them. And there are usually games and food and stuff like that, but there's also lots of seminars. There's usually RV technicians to do work on your rig. There's lots of different things to learn about. There's vendors and stuff. It doesn't have to be about you meeting and mingling with people. Mm-mm. Then you can consider going to some of the manufacturer rallies. So a lot of RV brands have their own rallies where they will have technicians on site from the factories that will come do work on your rig and fix things that are wrong with it for free.
Pretty sweet. Of course, you could always come to an RV Miles rally
Yeah.
or a meetup because we would love to spend time with you. We talked about our hangout that we're having in Utah in May. We actually have one spot that's opened up. Unfortunately, someone had to cancel. So we do have a spot now available. And this is very small.
If that fills, there's also a waiting list too.
Yeah. There's only going to be 20 rigs.
Yeah.
So I think we've capped it at about 50 people total, and that includes like kids and everything. So that's really small. Coming up, in fact, tickets are going on sale now for our mile marker members, and then starting at the beginning of March will be for the general public. But we do homecoming. And this year it'll be September 24th through the 28th in Amana, Iowa. This is a bigger rally. There's usually anywhere between 200 to 250 of us there. But like Jason said, we host seminars and we do trivias and we have games and we find a lot of ways, rig crawls and outings, and we have communal meals, and we find a lot of ways to help us all get to know one another without just like throwing us all into a room and being like, oh, so when did you start RVing? Oh, what kind of rig do you have?
And if you are somebody that just likes to be a wallflower and listen,
do that too.
We have seminars and stuff like that. And this is how lots of rallies are. It's not, you have to, I'm the guy that doesn't like to, go to the theater and then you get picked out of the audience and they pull you on stage.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Because you just did that recently.
Abby did that to me recently.
We don't have to
I didn't do that.
We'll say, we should save that for a detour episode. We'll talk about that on detour one of these days.
They're usually well set up for people to, for all types of people to be comfortable at them.
Yeah. And that doesn't go just for an RV Miles. That goes for any of the other ones that we have mentioned here. These are really about helping you find community. And if that's something you're looking for, we would love to welcome you at one of our events, or we highly encourage you to go check out some of the ones we just mentioned here. We've got two actually, and then I got a bonus one.
Okay.
I'm going to stick on here. But
so the next one is RVing to a different country.
There you go.
And
wow, talk about getting out of your comfort zone.
It really, really is. I mean, of course, look, driving up to Canada is not that different than being in the USA. Okay, it's totally fine.
We all drove on the same side of the road.
You have to think about the stuff you have with you a little bit when you cross the border, and that's about it. But RVing in Canada is fantastic. RVing in Baja was also a great experience. Mm-hmm. It involves a little bit more because there's a language barrier there, and it's not as well set up for full hookup sort of camping.
No. I mean, it could be,
but you could also head to another country. If you remember a while back, if you're a longtime listener, we had Heath and Alyssa Paget on the show to talk about RVing around the world. They've been to 11 different countries in RVs now. We'll link to that episode in the description as well, so you can learn about flying to some other countries and renting an RV to tour some other countries. And some are really well set up for it. Like New Zealand is a really big one.
Yeah, we saw Heath at the RV Content Creators meetup, which happens right before the Super Show. And I don't know if it was him or me, but within minutes of chatting with one another, we were already talking about how Jason and Abby are supposed to get over to Europe. And
well, the rest of his family was in Europe. Right?
Yeah, that's right. They were all abroad already waiting for him to come back. And I was like, I must make this happen. I must make this happen for our family. So hopefully we will. Hopefully in the next couple of years or so, we will take a trip abroad and do a little RVing.
The next one on the list before Abby's bonus one here is RVing to a city. Now, you might not think of cities when you think of RVing. A lot of people don't. And we're people who have always loved visiting cities, and we have continued that throughout our RV life. And you can go to some real big cities if you want to. There's an RV park I know across the river from New York City and New Jersey.
San Francisco.
We've stayed in San Francisco.
Chicago.
You can stay in Chicago. But we want to encourage you to visit some mid-sized cities.
We love a good mid-sized city.
Mid-sized cities are really where it's at. And they've done a lot. We've said this over and over. We feel that mid-sized cities have really done a lot to make their downtowns better for their residents, which also makes them more interesting for tourism. We're talking about cities like Austin, like Oklahoma City. Omaha is a fantastic city to
Minneapolis,
visit.
St. Paul is so awesome. The theater scene there is so great. Oklahoma City has an incredible food scene. You know, we're talking to Albuquerque, Salt Lake City. These are all places that we have visited and been able to camp, if not right in the city proper itself, outside of it, just enough that it's still a really easy and not long drive to get back into the city and enjoy everything that's there. I mean, mid-sized cities do a good job of, they want to be a big city, but they still want to have that mid-sized city kind of feel that Jason alluded to. And so that is just a benefit for the tourists. You're still getting incredible art. You're getting museums, you're getting theater, you're getting food. There's so many things that you can do in a mid-sized city. Don't skip out on, you don't just blow through Omaha on 80, stop in Omaha, spend a few days there.
One of the best zoos in the world.
Yep.
And, I think a lot of the mid cities are trying to craft an identity for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the bigger cities like Chicago and LA and New York,
they have their identity.
And maybe it's lots of identities and it's kind of overwhelming, right?
Pizza.
But these mid-sized cities, you really get a feel for the vibe of the area. And we love that.
We absolutely love that. So I have one I want to stick on here that I thought about as I was driving out here earlier today. And that is, I want to say, if we've gone through this list and nothing is speaking to you and you're still feeling like you're in that rut, you know what? Take a season off. Don't RV. It's okay. Like if you're just not feeling it, if you have maybe even moved out of the enjoyment of RVing, if it's feeling like too much work, if you're not enjoying being at the campground, look, we make our living off of RV.
Yes.
Okay. Like this is our small business is built on the world of RVing. But I will still say to you, it is okay if you don't want to RV for a season or 2 or 10 or
just
ever again.
One trip. Like there are a lot of people that feel, okay, we bought this RV.
We have to go.
So all of our vacationing, it's a waste if we don't use the RV for our vacationing.
But I would say that's, you know what? Go on a cruise. Cruising is a lot like RVing, as Jason and I discovered on this last one. There are a lot of similarities, and we can see why RVers are also really avid cruisers. Go ahead and just take a road trip and stay in hotels or fly on an airplane. Or if you do want to go abroad, but you don't want to do an RV, then take a trip abroad. Like it's okay to leave the RV in storage or leave it in the driveway and go take a different trip. And then maybe you will discover, oh, I really miss RVing and I really miss that lifestyle. Or you'll say, hey, guess what? When we get home, I think we should sell the RV. I don't feel like this is really us anymore.
Or we want a different type of an RV for this new. We thought we were big RVers and now we want something small for a different type of travel, or vice versa.
And it's okay to admit that, though. We can give you all these amazing things you can go do, but at the end of the day, it is okay to admit and say, this just isn't for me anymore. Full-time RVing was no longer for us anymore after 7 years.
Or those sort of adventures might inspire you to realize, oh, I really wish I was in an RV instead, and I miss it. Like you go backpacking and you think it's going to be great, and maybe it is.
You sleep
but
one
you're
night
like, I do love my RV. There are lots of things I like about that.
You're like,
though.
you know what? When I was in my early 20s, sleeping in a tent on the ground was awesome. I'm not in my early 20s anymore, and I don't enjoy this. So that is just our ideas of ways that you can kind of spice up your RV life. But of course, we would love to hear some of your ideas. What would you add to this list? If you're watching us on YouTube, please feel free to leave a comment and let us know your thoughts on everything here or what you would add. If you're listening, of course, pop over to the RV Miles Facebook group, share your thoughts there. We would love to add to this list. So the next time Jason and I are feeling a little bit like maybe we're in an RV rut, we can go back and we can reference your amazing ideas.
Yeah, maybe it won't involve just giving Disney a bunch of money.
Yeah, that's not happening, Jason. And you know it. And don't you dare act like you are being drugged on these vacations.
I'm completely involved. I'm not saying.
Don't even know, because just because one of us wants to move to Florida and the other one isn't quite there yet doesn't mean you won't.
I'm not there. I'm definitely not there.
Doesn't mean you won't come to my side eventually. It will happen.
All right. Yeah. Let us know in the comments if you've got some ideas as well.
It is time to check the level of our tanks, and this is sponsored by our friends over at Liquefied RV Toilet Treatment, the No BS Toilet Treatment. As a reminder, they are giving away an RV, an Alliance Delta travel trailer. You can get all of the information down in the show notes at rvmiles.com/349 on how you can enter. And this is going until May 1st, and there's lots of ways. There's no purchase necessary to enter, but they also have lots of ways as well that you can earn bonus entries. All right, Jay, what is in your black tank this week?
I had a YouTube video recommended to me yesterday.
This is wild.
That the thumbnail look at it, made me click on the thumbnail because what I saw in the thumbnail turned out to be what was exactly in the video. And Truth. I just could not believe it. This video was somebody had a frozen black tank. They've been camping in the cold and their entire sewage system, their valves and everything was frozen up. And what they did to thaw their black tank was they took their Blackstone griddle, took the griddle top off of it, the steel griddle top off of it, put it under their RV and cranked it up. And there was like pieces of like duct tape hanging down too and stuff like that could easily melt. And now they were there watching it very closely.
Sure, you can watch a building burn down very closely too.
I have to tell you, I troll through every RV related news story I can find every single week.
Yeah,
every camping related news story, all of them.
If you get on ramp each week, you know that.
I see, and there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make it into on ramp too.
Yeah.
I see so many stories about RVs burning down, and particularly this time of year, because often what happens is people get their tanks frozen and then they come up with less than safe methods, let's say, of figuring out how to thaw them. So maybe they'll take a heat gun to them and they're trying to warm it up. Or maybe they'll take that heat gun and shove it between two cinder blocks and let it point at it for hours and walk away from it. And that burns their RV down. All sorts of stuff like this. There are a million ways people burn their RVs down trying to warm up their tanks and thaw them. Don't stick your Blackstone griddle under your RV to warm it up. Okay. That's a terrible, terrible, terrible idea.
A+ for creativity. F-, for safety.
Don't try to warm your tanks up with anything that is an open flame or anything that you're going to walk away from.
All right. What is in your fresh tank?
My fresh tank, this is a cool product that I came across. This is, one of the most common issues when you have a tire fail on an RV is not that, that's a bummer, you got to put a new tire on. Yeah. It's that sometimes when that tire goes, it goes in an explosive fashion, right? People think, tires explode all the time. And it happens every now and then that you get a blowout is the word that people use. What happens more often in an RV that people blame as a tire failure and a blowout, what happens a lot, I think, is you actually get a flat. You get a puncture in your tire and that tire loses air pressure and you don't know it because you don't have a tire pressure monitor or anything, but you don't know. And because you've got another axle holding up your RV, right? So you don't really notice, you might not even be able to tell as you're driving down the road at all that tire has deflated because it got a puncture in it. And then as it deflates, because it has a lot less air pressure, it starts to overheat and then it eventually fails. And when that happens, it turns into a whip and starts ripping up the entire underbelly of your RV. The fender flares can get into the sidewall of your RV. They can do a heck of a lot of damage.
This is the most positive fresh tank I've ever heard.
They can do a blown tire can do a ridiculous amount of damage. Okay. And that's because RV manufacturers don't put fender wells in, right? So if like our school bus conversion had big metal fender wells where the tires are underneath. So if one of those blew, it's not the main reason they were there. They were there because the wheels come up into that space in the school bus. But
Wheels on the bus.
if one of those tires blew, it would just ding up that metal fender well, right? Mm-hmm. So a company called Armis RV Guardian, ARMIS, they have come up with basically a fender well that you can add on yourself. So this is a steel. This is a steel case, essentially, sort of like a half tire well that mounts to the axles of your trailer. So if your trailer tire blows, it's not going to do any damage to your RV. Now, I have no idea what they cost. They seem to be only available right now at 2 RV dealerships in Texas, near where they make these things. They can even customize them with cool logos that you want to put sport teams logos on them or whatever.
Oh boy.
But I think this is, I wish RV manufacturers would do something like this, but I think this is an excellent idea. The reason that this came up is that they just got a patent for their device. So I'm interested in seeing if this, sort of spreads and starts to go to more RV dealerships, or if you can buy them yourself so that you can install them, because I think this is a really, really great idea, a great solution to keep you from having your RV damaged if a tire blows.
Very cool.
All right. What's in your black tank this week?
So my black tank goes to whatever I did to my body when I was sleeping Monday night. Because if you are watching,
we're at that age that it's like, oh, I sneezed, I'm in the hospital for a week because I threw out my back, right?
This is beyond sneezing. I don't know what the heck is going on. If you're watching this, you'll notice that every time I turn to look at Jason, I have to move. The whole shoulder is
like your C-3PO moving to turn your body.
It's like I'm doing the robot. I don't even know. I woke up and, this happens to all of us. We sleep wrong. You wake up, you get a little, kink in your neck. And you're like, oh, I can't turn it. And then usually it goes away 24 hours. Okay, I'm on like day 5 and I still cannot really, I have no motion. I have no movement towards the left. I couldn't get in with my chiropractor. So short of getting to my chiropractor.
Well, you also skipped your appointment on Monday because you weren't feeling well.
Yes. So that was also a bonus of, I coming off the cruise and then coming off of an airplane.
That could have all led up to it.
And so I have had almost Tuesday and Wednesday, I basically had 0 range of motion. As of today is Saturday. This will come out tomorrow and Sunday. I would say I've got like 30 to 40% of my motion back. I cannot figure out though where it's triggered, and that is what's driving me bananas. But this is nuts. And if this is what it's going to be like, I quit. I'm out. Like, just freeze me here in time right now. Just Han Solo me. I'm out. Like, this is too much. I was like, is this what I get for going on a cruise for 7 days and being uber relaxed, and then coming home and jumping back into school and work with the kids?
Are you going to be able to see somebody on Monday to
I will see my doctor on Monday, so she will hopefully set me right. But until then, hey, throw me some ideas on what I can do to, actually be able to look to the left without being like, talk to me. And then I move back. It's fine. It's a black tank for sure.
All right. What's in your fresh tank this week?
So my fresh tank is a book that I would like to recommend. It was actually the Mile Markers Book Club selection for January. It's called The Life Impossible by Matt Haig, Haig. I fresh tanked one of his books a couple years ago. It was called The Midnight Library. It's still one of my favorite reads of like all time. This book is called The Life Impossible, a novel. And it's fantastic. It's really enjoyable. It's very different. But you have to go on this journey. And I will just talk a little bit about one thing I like about it, and then I'm going to let it go. We had such a good book club discussion on it though. So good. But the protagonist, the lead character, is a 72-year-old woman, which is really amazing to me that he's given this to a woman of that age. Because honestly, let's be real. We pretty much start writing people off as being worthy of being the main of anything once they hit a particular age. Like they're just deemed not interesting. They're hanging out until they drop, essentially.
I'm sorry, I'm just watching you just turn that towards me left and right. Your whole shoulders down, really, so you get big time.
It hurts so bad. I've had to rub it a couple times.
It's okay, just don't turn toward me.
It just hurts.
Just stay towards the camera. It's okay.
But it's really beautiful. And she is dealing with things that I feel are really relatable, that being grief and guilt and the struggles with aging and the making of choices and how those domino affect your life. And then there's a lot of other things in the book that so many of us felt. If you're an RVer, you will see so much of your decisions to RV or why you love RVing, like reflected throughout this book, even though it has nothing to do with RVing whatsoever. So it's really wonderful. It's a very easy but thought-provoking read. I highly recommend it. Again, it's called The Life Impossible by Matt Haig.
All right, that's it for this week's episode of the RV Miles podcast.
Oh, I just turned and looked at you and I moved too fast. Yes, it is. And hey, if you are enjoying the show, thank you to all of you who've already gone over and left a 5-star review for RV Miles. But if you haven't had a chance to do that yet, please pop over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review for the show. Or if you're watching this, one of the best things you can do is just hit that like button, share this episode across your social media, or if you're not even subscribed and you're watching this for the first time, or maybe this is the 10th time you've watched one of these and you still haven't subscribed, we would love to welcome you to the RV Miles Podcast YouTube channel. But until next week, friends, try not to throw out your shoulder. Go spice up your RV life and keep logging those RV miles.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.